Joining me is Mike Miller from Pond Pro Shop in Shawnee. Well, Mike, I'm sure you get the question quite often of how do I manage algae in my water garden?
Every single day, Kim.
I bet.
Many times, many times. We think that it's a several-pronged approach. It's not unlike having a toolbox full of tools and you need to use all of them. I get asked every day, is there one way to do this? No, there's not. If there was a silver bullet, we'd have it, but there's not one. Lots of different things, and we've got some here to show you today.
Okay, well, let's take a look.
The first one is an ultraviolet light, the UV light. Most pond owners have one of those. If they don't, they should have. The UV light works against the single cell algae that grows in the pond. And remember that algae is a plant, so as long as it has water and sunlight and nutrient, it's going to grow.
Right.
The ultraviolet light is what kills that single cell algae that passes through it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work on the string algae that grows on your rocks.
Okay, so important note right there. There's more than one kind of algae growing in our water garden.
Absolutely. There are over 300 types of algae. Fortunately, in Oklahoma, we only have a couple.
Okay.
None of them that grow like some in the ocean that grow 30 meters a day. If you had that in your pond, nothing I have would be able to help
trouble.
you. That's right.
So what can we use for the string algae?
String algae could be controlled using a new product, relatively new on the market, called an ion generator, and it actually is going to take the copper ions from these two probes and break them down and send it into the water. So the copper works against that algae that grows on the rocks and turns into string algae on the side. You would put this in, hook it up to the transformer. You have a setting on there that you'd set it based on your pond's conditions, and the water would go through this then and pick up those copper ions. This comes with a test strip. You're going to have to test for copper on a regular basis. Too much copper could be harmful to your fish.
Okay. And you have another product here that provides aeration.
That's right. This is an aerator. It simply is an external compressor that sits outside your pond and pumps air through this little tubing into these aerators that fit down in the bottom, and the air stones break it up into tiny bubbles that allow the oxygen to transfer into your pond. That helps your fish, that helps your plants, and it helps the bacteria that grows in your pond that is harmful to the algae. So we're trying to do all of these things to help you keep away from having too much algae in your pond.
Have a nice healthy ecosystem in our pond. Now the fish themselves do eat some of the algae, but one of the problems is if people feed the fish too much, they're not going to feed on the algae.
That's right. We have many customers who insist on feeding their fish twice a day, or 3 times. When they eat, they think the fish ought to eat too, and that's just not the case. If you feed them very infrequently, they will help clean up some of the matter that's in your pond down there. Okay.
Now, in addition to this, there's chemical additives for the water.
We talked about lots of different tools.
Yeah.
And so here are some more of them. We mentioned bacteria when we talk in reference to oxygen. This is a dry form of bacteria. That bacteria eats up that sludge that's in the bottom. That sludge turns into nutrient in the water, and algae grows on that nutrient. So this would be a dry bacteria that you'd add. This is a liquid bacteria. We have it in both forms, several different companies.
So you would use one or the other?
You would use one or the other. You could use both, but I just think that would be wasteful. So you probably want to have a good bacteria colony in your pond, and bear in mind that that bacteria is naturally occurring, but it takes it some time to do that. 4 to 6 weeks in a normal pond. So you can add this on day 1 and you've got the benefit of that bacteria. Okay. And finally we get to algaecides. These are EPA registered products that allow for you to kill the algae. But one thing you have to be careful about is when you kill algae, it removes oxygen from the water. Dying algae removes oxygen. Your fish and your plants require that oxygen to be healthy. So you want to be careful and follow the manufacturer's directions on this. This is a liquid. It treats both the string algae and the single cell algae. This one is a powder. It works best on a waterfall or a stream where the water is shallow, and that is going to make a lot of algae grow because of the heat from the sun, the water, and it grows on the rocks. It looks awful green and black. You would sprinkle this on, let it set. It kills the algae, and then you'd wash it off with your garden hose and dip it out using your dip net like we used before. We want to take this and dip out any algae that we can. We want to get as much sludge out as we can. We want to do all of those things in order to keep algae out of our pond.
All right, well, we have a really good tool set here, and just like any chemical product, we want to be very careful when we're adding things to the water and
always
follow those
follow
labels.
the manufacturer's directions.
All right, well, thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.